So, yeah. Um, for those who don't know me, I'm Eric Hermanson. I made a game called Drod a long, long while back that some people like. This behind me, this is a place where I do all my creative stuff. It's not a man cave. It is something more sacred than that. It is the space where I make things, where I work, where I express myself creatively. And I did something for all you. I cleaned up, to some extent, the thing behind me. Yes, it is a studio. That would be kind of a more ordinary way, the same way it is. But yeah, so it was looking a lot like weird. I can't. Oh, it got renamed. How strange. Some OBS weirdness. Never mind that. So I did some cleaning today, and there was a pile that was very Beethro-like in its scope. If you ever read The Pink Thread, a little story from way back, this character Beethro, he has a system of piles, and when I wrote that story, I didn't realize that I would later on fulfill that and be all myself a great keeper of piles. I had a pile that was right next to me that underneath of it there was 2 garbage cans, and it was actually hiding those garbage cans. So I mean, I pulled out, without exaggeration, 4 giant yard waste bags of stuff from just that pile. Yeah. So all this floor was kind of all full of crap, and now it's a space I can walk around. And first I was a little bit ashamed, but then I thought it's actually a triumph, because it was like 5 years I went without cleaning up that pile, and what that represents is an efficient use of time, because 5 years of cleanup I condensed into just a couple hours, and I was done with it pretty fast. If you think about it, it's like 5 years of cleanup in this room. So yeah, so very efficient use of time. If you can teach yourself to be happy to live with a certain level of dirtiness around you, you'll find that you'll spend less time cleaning overall. So I recommend that. So let's talk about the Godkiller, or the Godkiller, which is the proper term for it. So there was an April Fool's joke that we had on the Caravel forum for people that are on there. It is a tradition at Caravel that every April we use it to play a little joke, and sometimes there's 2 kinds of April Fool's jokes. There's the kind where the thing is not true and you fool some people, and then there's the reverse kind, which is better in my opinion, where the thing you state looks pretty clearly like it is an April Fool's joke, but it actually is true. And so this Godkiller thing was the latter. So everything written in this article was technically true. There was a little bit of silliness around my attitude, like are we aiming to replace Drod with this game? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But all the other kind of crazy stuff that was in this article I wrote, all true. And I'll show you much of it. If I forget any of the points that were mentioned there, and anyone wonders how is it this particular thing is true, you can ask and I'll explain it. So back in the late 90s, I watched Matrix Reloaded, and there's a scene in the Matrix Reloaded movie called the Burly Brawl scene. And in that scene, Neo, the main character, he fights like this impossible number of clones of his arch rival, Agent Smith. And it was an interesting scene for me. If you can remember it, if you've seen that movie and if you can remember it, it's pretty cool. the special effects maybe don't hold up that well, but the concept of it's pretty neat. And I thought, can we do this in a stepping game? Can we make this same type of experience, but just in a stepping game? For those that aren't Drod people, stepping game is one where it's turn-based, but there's no waiting. So like as soon as you issue a command, immediately the game updates. It's not like you say, here's my command, I'm putting it in, and now let's go on to the next turn. No, it's a lot faster than that. You press a key, the game updates. But until you press a key or issue a command, nothing happens. Everything's sort of paused in place. And so I wanted to make something like this scene, but in a stepping game format. And the key things I thought were interesting, like fighting 10 Slayers barehanded, but more intimidating. So the things that I'm trying to capture here are, there's like, you can have a large number of enemies attacking you. When you hit them, like Neo, they just go flying, and yet you don't kill them. Like they keep coming at you. They like, you can make some progress by sort of pushing them around, and you have like the heft that Neo does. You have like the power to just like send all your enemies flying, but they keep on getting up and coming back at you, and eventually you have to pick some other goal besides just killing your enemies. You have to decide you're going to move someplace, you're going to try to get all the enemies to go someplace else. So that's the gist of it. And I actually demoed like an early version of this concept when I went out to the people who do Torque, or did Torque, Ancient History, and I showed them like a demo of this game, and they said, yeah, but we're interested in Drod. We want like our own version of Drod. And from that came that frogs and mice concept, which eventually became Gunthroat. Yeah. So yeah, and there is like a thing about Drod, which is I always found a little bit cloying after the first game, is there's like a basic assumption you're always going to kill things in the room. If you see a room and there's monsters in it, you're going to go kill them. I thought it'd be more interesting to not have that be the default assumption. So let's take a look at the actual game. All right, so this is in Unity. I don't know if anybody here is a programmer or has used Unity. Unity has got, you know, compatibility with like all the places where you would make games in. So, you know, you can write once and have a Mac, Windows, console. Yeah, I'm thinking about console too. So I'm gonna hit play on this guy. And Unity is making like a little intermediate build after I hit play. Not a full build, but yeah, it's gonna spin the little disc a little bit, and it'll start on the first level. Right now I have 3 levels. The third one I just made this morning. Alright. Can I get some kind of decent frame rate? I've got so much stuff running all at the same time. Now, I did not like what just happened now in terms of CPU usage and the game being responsive. So I may have to be a little more creative in the future about getting the game to run faster. Anyways, alright, so there's a little guy that you control, and right now I'm pressing the key, and it's taking like way too long for him to move to the next step. We'll see if it gets a little bit better. So this guy, I call him Nothro in the article, but he actually doesn't have a name yet. It's not necessarily a he. So you move him in 4 directions. Okay, now, okay, good. Oh, geez, the CPU seems to have stabilized to something where I can play the game. Okay, so very familiar to Drod players, kind of a top-down type of a situation. very gritty on purpose, so you can see things, so you can see like what square your character's in. I'm going to continue calling him Nothro for the moment. I took out diagonals, and there were some reasons for that. Okay, so yeah, and he moves just instantly to the next square in the same way that Bithro does. I will do some stuff with animation, but there's something like I figured out there's kind of like a 4-frame budget that I have if it was 30 frames per second for animation. So whatever animation is going to happen for it to get him into the square, it'll get through really, really fast, because I do not want the player waiting around for this character to move into another square. So it's that same sort of Drod mentality where I want you to instantly be where you asked to be after you press the button. So there's some other things here. You can go up steps. As I hinted at in the April Fool's article, I am really enthusiastic about these stairs. So you can climb up the stairs. It's a nice way to move around, and stairs aesthetically look really cool to me, and I look forward to making some levels where there are just giant staircases that rise your character up huge distances. The way that I store these levels allows for me to have just vast vertical spaces. So it's optimized around that, and we'll see that. We will see the character like at the top of some area, and you'll get maybe a little bit of vertigo looking down, because it'll look like 5 miles down, and then you will drop down to the bottom. So yeah, so there's walls. If here's a basic rule, and by the way, I'm going to explain the rules to this for you. And when we get to level 3, I am going to actually ask for the people on the session for their help in solving the 3rd level. I'm going to stop myself from just solving it for you. So I'm going to explain the rules of movement and gameplay for you. If you internalize those, you may be able to do better on this 3rd level challenge that's going to come up. There are no sausages in this game. I'm sorry. I'm going to take my mouse pointer off the screen. There we go. So, okay, the rules are, if the square is up 1, you can step up to it. If it's higher than 1, yeah, exactly what you said, Laylasite. Laylasite. Did I pronounce it correctly? Laylasite? Yeah. All right. So 1 square is fine. 2 squares, nah, that's too high. You can't go that high. Well, Laylasite, Laylasit, you can phonetically write out your name, and I'll try. It's very important to pronounce people's fictitious names correctly. I struggled on a previous stream with your forum name, and I learned that it's Chaco, I believe. Is it Chaco? Or is it Shaco? Or is it Chaco? Okay. So I've been leaving out a new command that you can do. Okay, so this is what I refer to as the infinite leap. In the April Fool's article here, I also call it flinging. So what I'm doing is I'm holding down the shift key and I'm pushing in the direction I want to go. Now we'll move in 1 turn as far as that character can go without hitting an obstacle. So what that actually means, I'm quite a purist about it. We can have a level that is thousands of squares wide, and if you hit shift left, you will be there instantly in 1 turn. Those are the physics of the world. Now, when you fling, Lay aside. If you fling off into infinity, you die. So in a leap to infinity, by the rules of this universe, will cause you to die. It is allowed in some places for you to try that. What was I going to say? Okay, so when you fling, you always fling on the XZ plane, or the flat north, south, west, east plane that you're walking upon. If you fling yourself like off the edge, not of the whole level into infinity, but just I can't do it very well here because there's rails like stopping me from moving, but I'll get to a place where I'll show it. Okay. I was going to explain something, but I realized I'm not in a good place to explain it yet. Okay, I'll explain another thing. If you're on stairs, you're actually angled upward. So flinging, in this case, makes you go up at a 45-degree angle. So you can use that sometimes to go up into different areas. Okay, so I'm trying to remember if I allowed flinging to infinity. Okay, I can fling to infinity over here, I believe. Is it going to kill me? I hope it kills me. I hope it does what I said. No, it just stopped me from flinging. Dang it. Okay, never mind that. Okay, so if I fling south here, down on your screen to south, it will take me along the XZ plane first, and then once I hit an obstacle on that XZ plane, it'll drop me down. Is there anything to catch me south? There is. Okay. And again, with that sort of purist mentality, I end up showing like really some kind of complicated results of actions. I end up showing complicated results of actions just in one turn, and there's often not really enough information to know what happened when you're first playing the game. So it's a little bit rough when you start out, and I'll be looking for ways to add cues, but what I don't want to do, because I'm a purist, is show like some lengthy animation that shows exactly what happened step by step. So if you fling yourself to the west, land on some spikes, I'm sorry you folks are having some streaming issues. Worst case, this is all going to get archived to YouTube. So if you actually do something where there's like 3 or 4 consequences that happen as a result, it all happens in one turn, and you have to, after a while, familiarize yourself with the nature of the universe here, and like what the physics are, what things will happen. And then sometimes there's a little bit of a mystery, like why did I die? You won't really know until you've explored that area a little bit better and kind of contrived and deduced what the cause of a death can be. So this here is the exit level. I'm going to walk onto it. We're going to go off to level 2. Okay. So what's a Godkiller, and why do we want it to be sick? We want it to be sick. I don't quite get that. Yeah, Layla site, you're right. The smear thing, the trails, and there is the current stage of this is there is a lot of tweaking to be done with animation. The trails, in particular. Oh, I get it. One who makes the god sick. Got it. No, it's a horrible pun. You should be ashamed. So the trails in particular, I want to later on pay some elaborate attention to to make them as clear as possible, showing like what you're doing. So I go. Just picture what's going to happen when I fling to west. It's kind of important that you, without being able to play the game, can sort of internalize a few of these things. What will happen when I fling west? I will smack against the west wall, flat on the XZ plane that I'm on now, and then I'll go down. Hopefully the trail's picked up in that stream well enough for you to kind of see that. Okay. So here's the first enemy, creature. I decided I wanted to stop calling them monsters. Yes, they are spiked walls. So I just killed this guy down here. I call him a brawler. For now, I call him a brawler because he brawls just like the agents in the Burly Brawl did. Dopolo, yes. Straight west, straight down. Not normal physics, right? You didn't like start going down a little bit as you fell. Okay. So there's a concept of pushing. If I move east, I'm going to push the brawler. Okay. The streams and animation need to show this better. But what happened is he flew east as far as he could go until he hit an obstacle. How far east was that? That was quite a ways east. So now he's coming again. I'll push him again. That time you might have seen the trail. Okay, it's coming again. Now this time, if I smacked him with the non-spiky side, we'll go back and show that. Let's go show that. I do want to point out one thing though. So there's this thing called that I call pushing cadence. If I'm on the what I call the pushing cadence, or if I'm on push, when I move into the square, he's gonna get pushed. If I'm off push, when I move into that square that's between us, he'll push me. It's like parity, exactly. So we could be many squares apart, and our parity, our pushing parity is already determined at that point. There are things that get us on a different parity, and I'll talk about those a little bit. But right now, I'm gonna just show what happens. So I go east, I'm off push, and so I got pushed. It doesn't seem like the most natural thing to be tracking this parity, but most of the time you don't really have to think about it too much. You just kind of see, like, when you get close to the guy, when you get close to an enemy, like if you have to move into one empty square between you, that enemy is going to push you. Now I can push him. Okay, so let's see. If I'm going to answer that question. What happens if there's no spikes? Okay, so if anything is blocking that 3x3 area, or the quartile that is between the place where a spoke, let me do some terminology. This thing here with my mouse pointer, that's an axle. Okay, and this thing here is a spoke. This is also a spoke. So there's an east spoke and a west spoke. This east spoke has spikes on the north side of it or the left side of it. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. So if anything blocks the rotation of the axle, it just doesn't move, or it kind of does what you just saw there. And it doesn't take a turn either. So there's no waiting in the game, because waiting could be used to move you onto a different, I'm going to use your term, pushing parity. I actually like that better than cadence. Parity is more descriptive. So he's actually trying to rotate it as well. The brawler south, he's trying to rotate the axle. Flinging doesn't cause the axle to rotate. I thought about letting it do that, and I thought there's better puzzle potential if I don't. So if I fling into it, it's just going to stop me there. Okay. So other kind of rules of the universe, and this one will play a part of the level 3 puzzle. You have to exit. You have to be at the base level of the exit, and you have to step onto it. You can't fling into it. It won't catch you. Okay. Okay, these things here, the eggs, rules of the eggs. If you die, you go to the last egg that you touched, kind of like a checkpoint, or if you haven't touched one, you go to the nearest one. So I'll kill myself on purpose. So I immediately was reborn at the egg. And the level didn't reset. When creatures die, they also reset, or not reset. They are reborn by the same rules that apply to you. So there's kind of no way to permanently kill a creature. You can just kind of shift them around to different places where you want them to be, or get them out of your way, perhaps. And if you focus on trying to kill them, for the most part, it's kind of inefficient. So I'm going to get killed by this guy there. So that's another rule. If there's no place left to push, like if you're right against a wall, I'll go north. Then pushing against that creature, either you or the creature, will kill. So you can see there's a number of ways to kill the brawlers. You can push them against a wall. You can get them to walk on the spikes. Yeah, exactly. Like again, smushed against the wall by a caber. Yeah, there's some other ones. Oh yeah, you can rotate spikes onto them. Alright. So I promise that all the orbs are on the walls, and that is true. So this is a type of orb that's on a wall that we commonly refer to as a doorknob. So the way doors work is when you hit the square that the knob is on, it will open the door. Or if the door is already open, it'll close the door. So I have a little bit of work to get past these guys. It starts to show like what you would normally do with creatures. Not necessarily fight or kill them, but just kind of move on to whatever you're trying to do. So that doorknob that's off to the west, I'm up high enough that I can fling over. I can hit that doorknob, it'll open the door. Okay. So, yeah. I've got a system that kind of picks a camera view, that it tries to show like the room you're inside of. It's definitely got some tweaking that it needs to be a little bit smoother. Okay. These other knobs I'm actually going to save for a different session, because I want to do something cool with them. But they are called water knobs. Yeah, so yeah, Doplo. what you just said. It seems like you can't reset the level to initial configuration. So I'm trying as much as possible to make it so that you just play through. Like I will make it so that there is a meta key that you, not a meta key, but like a meta action that will restart the whole level. But I'm trying to bias the player to just continuing to play. Those axles, I did like a lot of thought on those axles and like how you may want to reset them. It is possible to get those into a state where they'll be unsolvable. It's also hard to programmatically detect that automatically. So I'm thinking about like having the eggs be actually wired up so that they will reset specific axles when you die. But in general, I want it to be that when you die, the level is just as you left it, and you just keep playing. And occasionally, somebody might want to reset to the very beginning of the level, but that's not like the preferred style of play that I'm promoting. You're just kind of supposed to shrug it off and keep going. So let's go on to the third level. But okay, before I go to the third level, I'm going to ask, are there any game mechanics that anybody has like a question about? Does it kind of make sense? Does it make 75% sense? All right, I'm all ears, Layla Side. Yeah. Yeah, right. I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to happen. So, if you fling in the direction of the stairs down, you're going to go down like that, right? You're going to follow that curve. You fling up, you'll go like that. Now, right here, I'm on like a landing at the top of the stairs. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you're asking. So here's one example. I left a rail off here, so it's possible to go perpendicular to the direction of the stairs. So let me ask you first. What do you think will happen? Make a prediction based on like the physics so far. No prediction yet. So in my mind, like I thought about different ways to do it. To me, it feels like the most simple to predict thing is flat south, because I'm not following the curve of the stairs up or down. Yeah. Cool. Del Polo, I'm kind of glad that you guessed along the same lines as my design went. I also had struggled a little bit with what should happen at the top of the steps. Like first, I thought it would be kind of convenient for like your upward fling to just stop at the end of the steps. So like. So I was thinking like if I fling all the way up to the top and there wasn't anything blocking it here, that instead of like continuing to go up, it might be nice to just have them stop at the top of the steps, because most of the time when you have these long steps, you're just thinking, I just want to be at the top. But then I thought, no, like it's better to have like a kind of a consistent physics. And it seems like if you are flinging in that upward direction, then let's keep you flinging that way. That's why if I'm level designing the steps to kind of keep things not too crazy, I always add a catching wall at the top, so that you won't just keep on flying. But that's the thing about the purity of this, is like there are a lot of things that are a little bit weird, but because I want the physics to be consistent, I just make them be weird. If there were northeast or southeast stairs, and presumably they would act as stairs going in both directions. Yeah, so yeah, I don't have any diagonals, if that's what you mean. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go on to the third level, and this one I'm going to explore it a little bit, but I am going to ask for your suggestions at a broad level, not like a turn-by-turn level, on what would make sense to try, and I will try them for you. Let me just kind of give you the lay of the land. Okay, so I was born here in the egg at the level start. This level that I'm on now, I'm going to call it the south platform. Okay, so like if you want to chat something like head over to the south platform, I'll know what you're talking about. So the south platform is this whole kind of area around here at this same height. Okay, so then you see, like, I'll call it the exit platform, which is north of here. This is the exit platform. This is where we want to go, I guess, to get out of this level. Although, in theory, I suppose there could be another exit around. Okay. So, I've shown you the south platform. You kind of see like there's some spikes to the south. There's some steps going up to what I'll call the upper south platform. And there's like a lower depressed area to the north. Okay, so I will take Delpolo's suggestion. I don't know how to carry it out, I guess. But I'll at least I'll go down here and fiddle around a bit with the axles to give you a sense of what's going on with them. Achromatic sky, yeah. So I don't want to do like a giant like a hub type thing like the second sky, but I will have like some sort of way of diverging beyond just a simple linear path. Alright, so I probably should be careful because I haven't put like a level reset in, and if I put one of these axles in a position I can't revert, that'll be kind of hard. But let me just look around a little bit. Yeah, Layla, yeah, so this is one thing that I would like to visually clarify in the future. But take a look. I mean, you can see. It's just a little bit hard. So the axle here, it's got these connectors, and you can see like this is a west spoke that's connected to this axle, and this is a north spoke connected to this axle. So when they get kind of close together, I'll go back over here as an example. So it gets a little bit tough to see which spokes are connected, but if you just eyeball it a little bit, you can see like here's west and south connected to this axle, and this axle's got one north spoke, and this axle's got one west spoke. Okay. So in the sunken area, there's all these axles. Axles to the right. So you're saying these axles here. Yep, that's a good call. All right. So walking around in the sunken area, I can see if there are no stairs that would let me go back up to the south platform or continue to the north platform. So I'm basically stuck down here. Does anyone have an idea for what to do next? I will try to enact it. I'm not able to walk on top of these spikes currently. Okay. So let me address that. So it is true that you are able to walk on top of spokes, but they are too high. Literally the number 2 high, which is also TOO high for stepping onto. Zendaris said walk onto the spikes. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that brings up the point that you can use dying tactically. The level hasn't reset. You can use it like a teleporter to move to where you want to go. Okay. I'll take the next suggestion for what to do. Meanwhile, I'm just kind of burly brawling with the brawlers. I will happily explore an area that you would like me to explore. I'll go against the spikes just for fun and kill myself. Knock those guys against the spikes just for fun. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I got pushed and it threw me on the spikes, and it showed some kind of bug in the game that's not letting me continue, so I'm going to restart the 3rd level. I'm taking note. Upper south platform. That's what I'll do next when I come back. I have to do a little bit of reloading. While I'm reloading, I will give you a different view to look at. Opening up. Yeah, the thing about brawlers staying in your respawn points, I made 4 exits from each egg that you can be born from. So if they're all taken up, no, you can't. You'll be stuck. But as long as there's one that's open, you're good. You will pick one of the open ones. All right. So now I'm hitting play on level 3. We're back in level 3. I'm going to set that over to there. Okay. So, Zendaris, a boss fight. I'm going to try not to do any story spoilers. But the gist of it is going to be you against God, and not like the God of whatever your religion is, but just the God of this fictitious world, who's kind of a jerk. Yeah, it does seem like probably some kind of boss fight against God. Okay, another rule for flinging. If there is a creature that's between you and the fling is canceled. So you have to kind of get a clear of creature path for flinging. Does blocking all 4 exits from an egg prevent other creatures connected to that egg from respawning, or does it take them to their egg? That's right. So if all 4 exits are blocked, the next closest egg will be attempted. It is possible you could run out of all eggs, and I haven't defined what happens in that case. I think in that case I will just have like a queue of sorts where you wait. And then I guess what happens if there's nothing that unloads that queue? I'm not sure yet. I haven't defined that yet. The game deletes itself. Something tragic maybe. Okay, so now we're on we'll call it the upper south platform. I want to give you the lay of the land there. Upper south platform. So I'm brawling a little bit here, a little bit like treading water. They come up on me and I just knock them around. Okay. So the Upper South platform, it is not connected to the northern area. We can fling to the north. That is true. Loyalist site, yes. If the level offers an area for enemies to be trapped, that would definitely get them out of your hair. I can see some level design and puzzles based on that. So like there might be sorry, I want to go back to the north area. So now we're in the north upper platform. I just died and it took me to a different egg, and I think it didn't take me to the first egg because I didn't actually touch it. But there's a mechanism where you can touch an egg and it becomes like your new place to be reborn at. To fling to the corner, you'd have to walk off the ledge to the 1x1 platform to the left. Not sure. Yeah. If I walked into the spikes from the bottom, okay. So I do have like kind of like a scoring algorithm that determines the closest egg, and the way it works is it is biased by height first. So generally in levels it's a little bit harder to get to different heights than it is to get to squares that are on the same height. It doesn't have to be true. So it looks first by height, which egg is closest to you, and if among eggs that are all at the same height, it will score based on the closer or the smaller of vertical and horizontal delta to the egg. And then somebody, well, let's see what, oh yeah. Oh, never mind. Okay. So now you've seen the south platform, the upper south platform, upper north platform. I might as well, since I'm here, show you the north platform, or we call it the lower north platform. And at this point, I think you have seen the whole level. Okay. This rule permanently stops taking effect as soon as you activate an egg. Yes. So as soon as you touch an egg, that will make it your new birthing home, your new place to respawn from. Just like draw checkpoints. Now the brawlers, at least as I have them coded now, they never touch the eggs. So the nearest rule is more relevant to them. Yeah, safety railings, one man's safety, another man's prison. Alright, so I will take suggestions on the next thing to do. I can also go to an area just to kind of to look at it a little better if you want me to. Thanks. Yeah, the arches I'm actually looking forward to in the later refinement areas of the game, phases of the game, to adding a lot of kind of nice architectural details. The exploitation of game mechanics begins right away. Obscure mechanics, we will exploit them all. In my level design, I'm probably not going to do much of that. But I understand, like after everyone's terribly familiar with all the basics of making puzzles, what's left, you go after those tiny little details that Drawed scholars know about and regular players don't. Alright, I'm going to do something that was mentioned far up in the stream chat, and that was to drop down to these axles, which someone, I forget who, correctly surmised was the only way to kind of get to a vantage point where you'd be able to push them. So yes, from there, by dropping down, I'm able to push these axles and spokes. So it is too much to kind of democratically go through the entire solution, but as soon as somebody hits upon it, the gist of it, I will actually just enact it. If there's any experiments somebody wants to try, just let me know. So we want to get onto this exit platform. There's no stairs to it. If we were to fling ourselves from either the north platform or the south platform, not only would we fly by the exit, but we would puncture ourselves on the opposite side, as there are spikes on both the wall of the south platform and the wall of the north platform. So there are very limited ways to get to that exit platform. There's a particular axle in the southeast corner just to the south of the one that we turned. I'm going to enact that layla side. Okay, so you're saying, okay, there is a particular axle in the southeast corner, just the south, this one here. So let's turn that one. All right. So I think layla side is. I think layla side has the concept, but I'm waiting for somebody to say what the concept is. Like, I'm not gonna force you all to tell me turn this particular spoke clockwise or counterclockwise, because that would be just you should play the game to do that, right? Spikes do not block. Yeah, so I tried to make the rules for blockage simple. Anything in this quartile, this 3x3 quartile, will block. Okay, you're looking. Oh, well, that's pretty reasonable. Oh, look at you. Unintended solution. Unintended solution. The first unintended solution of this whole game. So that was not the solution that I had asked, that I was asking for. But nevertheless, it is a valid solution. And it's not a bad solution from a gameplay point of view. So let's try it. Okay, so if I fling east here, bam, there it is. So I can walk across these axles, I can reach the exit point. Well, that's what playtesting is for. Um, I'll show you the much more complicated solution that was intended, but it's the same principle. Yeah, I mean, you're going to build a path of axles and spokes, and it's gonna carry you over in bridge-like fashion. Um, I just intended that path to be a lot longer and harder to set up. Oh, so here okay. So this is like some of the logic. Like I wanted to move um, this axle here over to where I am at, but now the way it's blocked, so I have to put the axle I just moved back, and then come back over here, knock this axle up. Now that looks, whenever I see everything all close together like that, I get a little bit nervous. Like, did I make the axle go in a spot where I can't get back if I want it? But no, it's fine. Move this guy over. So that's the intended path. Layla was much more elegant. So let's kill myself. Let's go down south. Okay, down. So this is the intended solution. So I don't know. I really love these axles and spokes. They're also something I play tested early 2000s. I had no, it was in the 90s. God damn, that was a long way back. So there was a point in time before Drod AE was written that I thought that I would not be able to get the rights back to the Drod story from Webfoot. Not because they were like really stubborn or anything like that, not because they were like holding on to it in a malicious way, but just that it would have been a pain in the ass for somebody to pay attention to me and sign a document that said, I had the rights back. So at that point, I was thinking, I'll just make another Drod-like game, but I'll call it something completely different, and I will have like a main character with a different name, and it was called Beneath Simple Earth, and it had like these little swing around axle things in it, although they didn't have spikes. So this is them coming back, and I'm happy to get them back in. Let's see. Rest of the set of spokes for the important spokes next. Yeah, so Layla site, you're right. Yeah, I can edit that to make that inaccessible. In fact, we can do that next if people are interested. The level editor is kind of fun, but it's not like a Drod level editor. The editor is Unity itself. I'll show you what that's like. Well, I feel like the axles and spokes could go into Drod pretty easily. Things that this just loop back to the first level, since we only have 3 levels. Things that I know are difficult to put into Drod because Mike and I had these conversations. Anything where there's a number of kind of where you move like more than one square and there's a bunch of consequences as a result. So like one of the things I asked Mike about a long while back was what about ice? What about some squares that you step on them and you immediately slide all the way to the end? And it's not to make Mike out to be a bad guy. I hope none of this sounds like that. Like, Mike didn't want to do it, but now I got my own game. Now finally I can do it. No, it's just that the when you have all this code and it has this obligation to support interaction with all the existing elements, anytime you add something extra ambitious like that, not only do you have to implement that code for that element, but you have to go back and see what are all the interactions with everything else. But here I got like a clean slate, so I could make from the very beginning this concept that you can move through multiple squares and all the consequences of that movement will be realized. So I did put ice into the game. Grease I might do too. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew in this game, but I'm interested in getting grease in. So ice is just, right now it's kind of like a very primitive looking element. I want some better cosmetics on it, but so you can slide across the ice in one turn. If your player is here and he pushes in that direction, or not pushes, but walks in that direction, he moves north 2 squares. Yeah, and it's actually it's pretty important for the tactics of pushing combat. So it's a way that you can change your pushing parity. Who coined the term? I like that. We coined it today. Somebody said parity. Was it Leilosite? Yeah. So you can change your pushing parity by slipping on ice, because if you are here and you push, if you walk east, suddenly you've moved an odd number of steps or an even number of steps in one turn. They'll put you on a different parity. Zendaris coined the term parity for pushing parity, historic moment. So ice is good that way. The other creatures, they slip on the ice too, which is fun. Delpolo. Let's get it right. Let's get the credit right. Delpolo was the one who invented the term pushing parity. Yeah, so anyways, here's the editor. Let's see if I can fix the mistake of this being like something that you can get to. I can fix it in a way that I can fix it different ways. One way I could fix it, okay, let's. One way I could fix it is I could add a spike. I could just add a spike. Hit this square that is just above the top of the axle. Alright, I'll just do that just to show what that's like. That might not be like the best level design choice, but cut. So I've got like this kind of grid snapping turned on. There's this thing in Unity called ProGrids, and it makes it so that when I move elements around, they just sort of snap to the right location. Okay, Leilosite says, regarding parity, you could just move towards or away from a wall that's blocking your enemy. Nope, won't work. So whenever you move into an obstacle square, it doesn't count as a turn. It just cancels your turn. So that's by design, just to prevent that specific thing. Another way you can change your parity is by flinging. Another way you can change your parity is by getting pushed. So, which is, in a way, it's like a different form of flinging. Wait, okay, you think the idea is that there's a wall between you and the enemy, not that you're bumping. Just move towards or away a wall. Do you mean like maybe Leilosite meant to fling? Do you mean to walk or to fling? Walking towards an obstacle wouldn't change your parity. Flinging towards an obstacle could potentially change your parity. No. So like say I sound like a jerk. Nope, nope, you're wrong. It's my game. I know the rules. You don't. Uh, okay, so where you're the X, wall is U. X, U, O. Okay, and the underscore I'm guessing is a space. So if you moved, oh, there you're right. Very clever. Yeah, because the creatures, they do actually get to wait if the square that they want to walk to is blocked. That is true. That is true. Unlike you, the player, their inability to move into a square does allow them to change parity. Yeah. Okay. So you could fix this with spikes. I feel like putting spikes here is a bit inelegant because that's a giveaway to the concept that you would be able to walk across the top of the spokes. But maybe this isn't like the room that introduces that concept. So if that were the case, if the player had already hit some room that kind of was one of those type that forced them to see they can walk on the tops of spokes, then spikes here is pretty good. It's fine. It's not really a clue. Okay, so let's see. Layla side suggestion. You could shorten the west side of... Yeah, that's actually a little more elegant. I like that better. Let's do that. So this editor stuff, it is undistributable with the player, unlike the editor inside of Drawd. It is the Unity editor. So you actually have to go into like Unity's 3D scene editing to do this authoring, which is good and bad. So it's bad because like the idea of like a user editor is not naturally achieved. I would have to write something fairly ambitious and complex. Oops, I did something kind of gross. Oh, I had... Alright, there. So there is Layla Side's more elegant room edit. It doesn't broadcast anything special about this axle. Might as well make the northmost tiles a wall instead to mirror the east side. Debatable. Yeah, I could see that though. I mean, at this point it's a little bit stylistic. Would you want to have like a more symmetrical room? Like this room is not really trying too hard to be symmetrical. It's like I'm kind of symmetrical. A little bit asymmetry is sometimes nice. Tells you that it's worth looking at that side of the level a little bit longer perhaps. I think it is a clue. It is a clue that there is this wall here. If we were trying to make it harder, I think I would favor symmetry, because the symmetry would hide that there's something different about this side to be looked at. If we want it to remain a little bit easier, having that wall there is probably pretty good. So then Doppelo asks, are you able to rotate the camera while in game? So this is something that I have as a goal, is that I don't want look around behavior. Like I want the player to forget any kind of advantage that they might have by looking around with camera controls. I want them to forget about camera controls. So to achieve that and not be irritating the crap out of people, I really have to put a little more or a lot more effort into the auto cam behavior. And I have some ideas where like there'll be some kind of complex analysis of the level that happens at build time, not during the game, and figures out like exactly what good default places are for the camera. And then there's also like maybe a bit of a obligation in the level design not to abuse the lack of knowledge about areas outside of the camera the player has. So if I designed a level, say like this one, where you were supposed to sort of bridge the gap between a south platform and a north platform, and the north platform had just a bunch of spikes, and say there was just one bald spot on the spike wall in the north, and you could only figure it out by flinging yourself across, and in that brief instant while you had flung yourself across, noticing that just one column to the west is where the bald spot was, and then, I think you get the idea. That would be a crappy level. So in level design, I have to make it friendly to the idea that the player doesn't need to fiddle with the camera look, and that is my design goal. Wall and the stairs on the same tile seems like a bad idea. Yes. Yeah, and I think I'm pretty close, because like this morning I spent 2 hours putting this level together, and I paid no attention to designing where the camera was going to be. It wasn't the only thing I did think about related to the camera was the height of these arches. So if they're high enough, then it avoids this kind of ugliness where as soon as you walk under the arch, the camera sort of ducks deep under to show you your view. So I made the arches really high to kind of let the camera, if you picture it like a kind of a physical floating thing, go just underneath of it without dipping low down. If you fling a brawler and he flies off and hits a spoke, does the spoke rotate? Well, let me back up to Zindars. It still seems like it'd be extremely helpful in trying to understand level to be able to pan the camera around without actually moving and figure out what's all where. I agree. Like, so this is a kind of a trade-off. So what would be like the optimal view to solve this level? It might honestly be like this one. It might honestly be this very aesthetically kind of gross view, right? And then there'd be no scrolling around, and you would simply be a tiny little guy that moves around. In fact, let's just do it. Let's do it right now. I'll show you what it's like. All I gotta do is take my player cam and remove the link to the player. Anybody use Unity? Anybody do anything with Unity? Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna take this player cam. I'm going to set the player cam so it is exactly where my position is right now. Okay, and now I'm gonna hit play. I'm letting a lot of stuff go by in the chat, so let me just, before I hit play, I'm just gonna address a few things in the chat. If you fling a brawler and he flies off and hits a spoke, does the spoke rotate? No. No flinging behavior or pushing behavior will cause spoke rotation. I decided that was too chaotic. As a directionally challenged person, probably resort to taking screenshots, make a map. Yeah, I mean you can. I'm going to try to make this so that you don't need to, so that the levels are quite playable. And the later side, yeah, trying to be a bit cinematic. Trying to, have a little fun with the view, add a little drama to it. I also think there is room for not having perfect knowledge of the level uh, in a logic puzzler. RTSS can move the camera below shaded since you don't know how much has changed in that area and not show the places the camera hasn't panned over all yet. That's an interesting idea. I'm going to show now the drawed style view. There will be no scrolling. It would just be you, tiny little guy. I mean, it has its charm. And it does make me think, like, maybe I want something level configurable, where there might be some levels where I zoom it out quite a bit. I am always reminded of with this problem of a game I played a long time ago, nobody's heard of. It was like some Star Trek game for 8-bit computers. And they had two views. They had a 3D view that would show you, I guess, the cinematic experience, but think in 8-bit days, like chunky graphics and all. But it was like their version of beautiful graphics in that day and age. So there was like this kind of weird 3D view where you would line up your sights on the ship that you were going to shoot. You press the button, and it would, if you had it lined up right, it would destroy that, and you get into the drama of that. And then off in the corner there was this little navigation view, which was a top-down radar. And you started playing that game, and you knew after a while that in order to play the game well, you needed to ignore that big 3D view that looked a lot better and just entirely focus on that top-down view. So the rule from that is that as soon as like an interface is introduced or a viewpoint is introduced that allows optimal information, you're only going to want to use that. There's an argument that could be made that like you could have like one view that has sort of more general information, another one that's a little more close up, and your brain could do things that combine the two together. And most first-person, well, I won't say most, but a ton of first-person shooters have that, right? But I feel like as soon as I offer the option for the user to zoom out if they want to, that's it. Any good player is just going to always zoom out like this. I mean, that will be like the best way to play the game. So at least from just a pure gameplay standpoint. Balthor makes a good point. A downside of this view is that all the pillars and things can be obstructing. So when we had the camera that was on top of our head, we would be able to take advantage of the angle tending to move walls out of obstructing your viewpoint. So then, like, if you kept on following sort of the pure Drod mentality, you would say, well, we're going to get rid of all those overhangs. And that is what I did in the 90s. You'll see in like the post-mastery area of it's either TCB or JTRH. There's all these like 3D experiments in me, like kind of being like torturously considering like what I wanted to do. And that version of me said, let's never hide information. It's going to be 2D. There'll be no overhangs. It'd be cool to walk inside little spaces, but no, we're not going to do it because it's going to be pure information. It's going to be just the pure puzzle solving experience. Now this version of me says, okay, I already did that though. Let's do something different. Let's go back and take the other path. Let's have all the 3D stuff. Let's have overhangs. Let's be able to go inside rooms and see what's inside the room. Let's explore in 3 dimensions. Let's have hidden information. So that's where I'm at with this design. And my challenge is to make it so that as you play the game, you're not going to be extremely frustrated with your lack of control of the viewpoint and your lack of perfect information. The wall pushing puzzles can cause unwinnable states easily. That is true. There is no undo. There is a discouraged reset level feature. I'm going to vary it in meta menus. But that observation you made is entirely correct, and I've thought about it. And the solution I have, and I'll show you some sketches maybe later on a different session, is that eggs will have a set of wires that go off to axles that need to be reset. So, and I say this like I'm absolutely certain it'll be this way, but it could go different ways. But this is what I'm thinking now. So say, for example, that you pushed, what's one that would screw you up? I might not have in this one. But just say you push one of these guys. I used to not have this block here. So this block I actually put in to avoid this situation. But here's how it was before. So it was like that. So that means that you could come and push this clockwise. The spoke would be flush up against the wall, and there would be no position from which you could push it south or push it counterclockwise. And that would mean perhaps unwinnable state, or at least it would mean you were in a state with this axle that you can't return it to where it was before. So the idea I had was that we would have like wires coming from the egg to not all of the axles necessarily. We would think about it level by level. But you could even like visually trace like where the wire goes, and the wire would come down here, and then it would go over here and would go to this axle. And what that means is that when you die and you are reborn at that particular egg, then that axle will reset to its starting or preferred rotation. Okay, so I think that answers Balthro's question, and I do appreciate you catching the problem there in the same way that I had to. Yeah, so yeah, an Acromax guy said, basically a version of what I said. A switch inside the level resets the mechanism would be a good way to do that. And a thing I want to do is, whenever there is some kind of need for a reset, is to not have it be like a meta action, like you die and then everything resets, but have it be, accessible in some way that stays within the confines of a game life. Yeah, so I think about this statement. At the same time, if you make a puzzle game and don't make an easy way to see all information, players will definitely complain about it. But I think about like some great puzzle games that I played. Portal, for example. I don't always get to see every piece of information on the screen. But I really enjoyed Portal. Really enjoyed it. And part of the reason why those puzzles are enjoyable is because they didn't max the difficulty that they could have reached with all the game elements in Portal. They didn't arrange things so precisely and depend on leave such a small margin of error that you needed to have perfect knowledge of how that level was set up and how everything interacted. So I'd like to move away from like an analyze and solve all at once type of a puzzle solution, and more of like you can try things a little bit. So like Zindaris, like when you're doing your plays, your streams, and you're just kind of like quickly undoing when you die, and that becomes part of your gameplay. That's the same sort of gameplay that I'm after, except maybe a little less meta. So like you'll just kind of flit off to the last egg that you were at, and you'll keep going. No big deal. Keep going. Yeah, I'm gonna put the block back. So I could undo it. But instead I'll show you what it's like to add something. So I drag off one of my prefabs. A prefab is just like in Unity, it's a reusable game element or object. Okay, so this was like a 1 by 1 by 1 block that I call floor. And then what I can do is I can grab one of the surfaces of it. I'm waiting for it to highlight. Okay, there it is. So I've highlighted the top surface of the block. I know that I need it to be 2 high. Actually, I don't need it to be 2 high. It could have just been 1 high. But the reason I made it 2 high is because there's a little quirk where, and I still haven't decided how to consistently resolve this, where you will fling upwards even if there's just like 1 block. So that same 45-degree upward fling happens. Puzzle potential is on rather than just as soft lock prevention. That's true. The whole thing about like having like the axle reset be tied to the birth egg or some other element that's controllable. Yeah, it does. Portal 2 definitely never relies on actually hidden information with puzzles. Yeah, but what I mean is, like, you may not see enough of the level when you start out that you could solve it then. You have to walk around, you have to look around. I actually aim for this to be in between those two extremes. So, like, the game really is oriented by two extremes. I mean, the portal extreme where you really have to explore and look around a lot to figure things out, and the draw extreme where you're omniscient, essentially. The game really tries to present a larger amount of information than most games do. Not as much as Drod. Drod kind of wins there against a whole bunch of games for just showing like a massive amount of information at one time. So yeah, I'm looking for something in between those. Is there a way to get stuck inside walls, add a spike in there so you can reach an egg instead of having to reset everything? Yeah, so that, man, you were thinking of the same cases that I thought of. So I don't know, maybe we're both geniuses or maybe we're both idiots. So let me show a case where we're in trouble with the level design. So suppose that we just make a little pit that you can drop into, but there's nothing to kill you down there. So you're trapped, right? So I'm still thinking of the best way to handle this, because I don't want you to have to reset. I want you to kind of play through all the time, if possible. You could say in level design you just avoid making any of these situations. I don't know. So I was thinking like there might be like a rule that like if you are in the same 2 squares, 1 or 2 squares for say 10 turns, there's something like a sword of Damocles that just comes down and like slaughters you instantly. It's like you see it float above your head, and then you know death is coming unless you like stop like walking around inside of those squares. Could also, because I'm a fan of like having the same rules apply to everything universally, could do the same thing for the creatures as well. But then that kind of, so I'm kind of iffy on that, because maybe that also means that like I lose out on puzzles where you intentionally trap creatures in areas like this. I'm still thinking about that. I would like there to be like a an in-game way that gets you past those situations. Yes, there'll be room for very large and very small levels, and I'm really looking forward to, because I built this engine specifically to do this, vertically vast levels. So I mean, like, you will be way the hell up here, and you'll see like far down below a bunch of stuff, and it'll be possible, like, in one turn you drop and then wah 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 wah, and I don't mean like the speed I'm doing it now. I mean, it'll be instant. You'll be there, and that's like kind of like the brutal physics of the world, which always operate the same way. You can fall from any height. We can have stairs that go up, like, I say literally miles, but what I mean is, in the unit system of Unity, these things actually have like a space, like, so this square is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. Yeah, we can be kilometers or miles up in the air, and the level, the underlying structure of the level is split out such that it will allow for that efficiently. And I'm being very low poly with everything too, so this thing should support just really giant levels if I want to do one, or small levels too. Maybe I'm not doing chat the right way, because like I'll talk for 5 minutes on one point, and then like I go down to the next comment, and it's somebody who just responded to something I said 5 minutes ago. But I like to expound, I guess. Clearly, you should just hold your breath until you suffocate, and then go back to the nearest egg. Yeah. So, but that's kind of like if I have a hold your breath command, then that's sort of like I gave a restart command, and I don't know why I'm being such a purist about it, but I just like the idea that you don't get to have that command. You have to find a way to die. Actually, I guess because, like, if you are thinking about ways to die, then things like this lower area here, you have to go walk over and find a spike and land on it, and then bam, you're dead. So that's kind of like what's going around in my head. That's, if I had that you move between two squares rule, that would kind of ruin the requirement for you to go find things to die on strategically. So still playing with that one. Yes, since we're the Godkiller, I think it's fair to say that God hates us more than he hates the brawlers. I'm going to try really hard not to do any story spoilers, but it's you versus God and all of his creations. And I'm working on what I think is a really funny way that whole conflict gets started. Why flinging at any point? I guess the most elegant way to do this would be to allow Y flinging at any point. Well, that would be at least consistent with the world physics. I see Y flinging straight up. You launch into infinity, you die by the rules of the world. When in doubt, add spikes. So it could just be like a level design problem. Then you have a ceiling above the puzzle actually involves finding ways to die. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the Y fling. I like it kind of like as a I like it from the standpoint of keeping the integrity of the universe. From a puzzle or gameplay standpoint, I don't like it as much because, I mean, you'd have to find the location that has the empty ceiling. Like, I suppose, like, if you were in a trapped area, that would be like the one time when you would use the Y-fling, and you would probably be doing it in a trial and error way, because most of the time you'd expect there to be something above you that would catch you. But also it would be a game command that only has one use. And it is essentially the same thing as a restart. And it stops me, the puzzle designer, from designing levels where finding a death source is important. And I'm not going to have such an easy way to change parity. Like it's like a short circuit of other elements that should be used to do it. All right. You know what might be fun? I'll spend maybe the next 20 minutes or so. We'll just create like a new level from scratch, just a small one, a little baby level. I'm going to save this one. We actually did constructive work on this level as a result of this playtesting session. Okay, but I do have to pee, so I'm gonna be right back in about 3 minutes. All right. Catching up with my chats here. No, we don't want to be always... Like in real life, I hardly ever check where the ceilings are. I just assume I've got ceilings above me, or from outside that I don't have any. And you can't jump up against gravity. Yeah, okay. Oh, going to dinner? All right. Leosite, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Not just as a viewing audience member, but as a active solver and playtester. And catch you later. Okay, one more mechanics question. If stairs end at a ledge, diagonal downwards and then straight down, as opposed to flat ground, could you fling yourself diagonally downward? Yes. this is let's build this thing. Let's build this thing. So I'm going to open this thing I have. It's kind of like a little boilerplate to start with. Alright, let's save this as something else so I don't overwrite the boilerplate. Scenes, okay, save it as screwing around. Alright, so our level. So let's make the exact scenario you spoke of, Godkiller. Tall. Make this kind of, because it's fun, I'm going to make a really high platform. So that's just a kind of normal thing I do. Okay, I'm going to extrude that. I'm going to do a little bit of surface pulling to get a platform above everything else. This, by the way, is really fun. It's really fun to make this stuff. There's this software called Pro Builder, which I used maybe 5 years ago, something like that, and I liked it a lot. And the company that made it became so successful that Unity sucked up their product and made it an official part of Unity, and that made me pretty happy. Okay, so we got this platform on top of everything. Let's put the player. They can. There's no physics that's going to stop something from falling or require supports. Okay, so then I need to put a player on top of this platform. Then I need to take my player cam and have the player be attached to the player cam. Alright, that's kind of the boring part. Now I can just get back to the level. Okay. So then let's make the steps. In my prefabs I've got stairs. I have many stairs. I've got stairs that are span a height of 8. That's what I can use now, but it's rotated wrong, so I'm going to rotate it the right way so it matches up to where I want to place it. Alright. So then the question is, what happens, if you fling down these steps? Well, currently you would fling down just as Godkiller proposed, or guessed, or speculated. But also the angle is such that right now you go off into infinity, which would kill you. Ignore the water. I'm not ready to show the water, but there is this water layer underneath. But I can fix that. I can just put something you can stop yourself against. So I'll do that. Taking my wall square, moving it here on the floor, and I move it a little bit more to have it snap into place. Then I want to make it larger. So I select one side and I pull it out. One surface, pull it out. There we go. Do I got it in an okay place? Not really. I need to move it over a little bit. Okay. Let's grab the top, pull the top up. Unity is really cool. I just love it. Like, if Unity was around when I was making like the first version of Drawd and it was like this good, like the 3D type of development would have just been irresistible. I would have been like, what am I doing making a 2D game? It would have just been too hard to pass up. It does kind of make you wonder though, like when there is a tool that's so powerful, like what kinds of game design decisions are being passed up because people get influenced by what you can do on it. Just like if you have a guitar, you strum it certain ways and it sounds good really quick. So what that leads to is maybe certain types of music being created that are based on the easy things to do on a guitar. And every once in a while somebody comes along and they make something that's sort of hard to do on an instrument. There's a guy named Raymond Scott who would create these compositions and then bring in proficient studio musicians to perform them, and they hated it because he just created like these like really horrible things to play that were unnatural on the instruments that the musicians were proficient in. So now, if I was really trying to seal this off well, I would probably raise these up a little bit so that the player just can't fling off into infinity. 2D graphics over 3D most of the time. Yeah. I guess I just feel like, for me, that there's a lot of territory in 3D that I just never got around to exploring, so I'm having fun with that. So anyways, let's do this thing. And like, so Del Polo, and like there's no suspense to this anymore because we talked through what would happen. But let me just make it a slightly more interesting experiment. I'll put a gap there in the stairway, and alright, let's just try that. That's probably good for a start. I'm pleased that it just started right away. Okay, so I can walk up and down. So what happens if you fling down? I think that it's going to fling me all the way down to the end here and knock me against the east wall to the right, and then go down, go straight down to the ground. So let's try that. And lo and behold, I'm right. To illustrate the diagonal fling, could you put one platform? By the way, I read these out loud because it gives me time to think about what you said as I read them out loud. To illustrate the diagonal fling, could you put one platform on the wall at the same height, and second platform where you'd land after the diagonal fling? A horizontal fling from the top would get you the sideways. Could you put one platform on the wall at the same height? I might be not quite getting what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying, okay, well, Alright, so I just made another platform. It's at the same height. And second platform, where you land after the diagonal. Okay, let's just take out this thing and do what you said. I think let's make a new. Del Polo, man of science. I like it. It's one thing to build volcanoes with baking soda, but do you have a hypothesis? Can you test this stuff? Can you demonstrate success or failure? Alright, so I think that's positioned right. Now, is this the scenario? Is this the scenario that you're talking about, Del Polo? I put one platform up here. It's at the same height as the birth platform. Okay. Yeah, it is kind of nice to start over, you know, because like you can, I mean, it would be super cool like if there was some engine that had all the stuff in Drud and all the stuff that I've got in Godkiller too, but there's something nice about just kind of starting over with a clean slate, picking elements that will go together well in a game, and nobody is overwhelmed, including me, the programmer. All right, let's try this out. So we clearly see there's a gap here. Have I positioned it such that flinging downward I'll land on the platform? Bam! Yes, I have. The physics of my world is upheld. We don't need to create a new theory to explain how it works because it's consistent. And this is probably coming to a good time to wrap up. Let me tell you a little bit of what I'm thinking I'm going to do coming up. And I am willing to do this thing that I'm going to tell you about with everyone bored to death of it and not showing up. It'll just be me on the stream by myself, still streaming it, still archiving it. So I'll tell you, I think I'm going to go into live coding mode. And I've done a bunch of tests. I've got like my ID here. I think the way I would do it is I'd start off the session saying, here is what I aim to complete inside of this session. And there'd be like a little mission, like I will add this feature, or features are actually pretty hard to do in one session, but it might be like one little aspect of a feature, like there's this I might say I'll make it so that the camera does not jerk up and down when you go into a room with a low ceiling in a way that's unpleasant. And I'd set that goal for myself. I bring up the code that I've got here, probably spend about 80% of the session in the code, talking through it, talking about what I'm doing, responding to chats that came up. So I would expect like a number of people would drop off because they're not into coding, not into development. But I also think I would start off each session, or maybe the end of it, with some kind of demo of something, some little kind of thing to show, some progress that's been made recently. And I think it'd be a big motivator for me to keep making progress, because I would say, hey, what can I show people this coming Sunday? and it's also kind of fun to talk while I code. At least for me, it is. Um, so so that's where I think I'm going to take this. I think I'm going to do it every Sunday at 3 p.m. until I decide to do something different. Yeah. So we can. There is some room to add new elements. Um, there's a bit of a high threshold, um, because I don't, because I want to finish this basically. So I have planned out like a base set of elements, and I think I'm 90% set on the elements I'm going to include. But if something amazing comes up through suggestions, through playtesting, some great thought comes out of this, and it seems undeniable, that I could see it going in. I also have to be a little bit careful. I need to be clear with the understanding of people when they're in these sessions that everything I'm doing is stealable, and everything you're doing is stealable as far as like ideas and concepts that we're talking about. So, like if somebody goes out and they code up like a clone of this while I'm working on it, I'm like, good job. It's more company. But also like if somebody says an idea and I just use it, like I'll try to credit people for contributing ideas. But there's like no such thing as like you get compensated for your ideas or anything like that. So I got to be a little bit careful about setting expectations there. I think most people get that kind of instinctively or through the culture that has sprung up around code these days. But yeah. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this up, and I appreciate people, Delpilo, Zendaris, Isolite, and let's see, there's one other person. Oh, there's a few other people. Balthro, Acromatic Sky. I appreciate people joining. Maybe there's some people that didn't chat much, but they were also here. I appreciate that too. And yeah, if you like this, see what I'm doing maybe next Sunday, same time. Yeah, and thanks a lot. Talk to you all later.